Okay, so imagine this for a moment. A laboratory experiment designed to solve a problem, improve crops, cure diseases, understand the brain. Nothing dramatic, just careful research, white coats, controlled environments, and good intentions. Now imagine that years later, some of those experiments start producing results that feel slightly off. Not catastrophic, not world-ending, just strange enough to make scientists pause and ask an uncomfortable question. What happens when science accidentally creates something it didn't fully anticipate? These are real experiments, real studies, and real biological modifications that pushed the boundaries of what humans can engineer in nature. And while none of them turned the world into a horror movie, some came surprisingly close to creating creatures and ecosystems that behaved in ways nobody expected. Number 10. Jellyfish genes in wheat. In the early 2000s, researchers explored an unusual idea, inserting genes from glowing jellyfish into wheat. The concept was surprisingly practical. If crops could emit light when they were stressed, during drought, nutrient shortages, or infection, farmers could detect problems instantly in the field. When exposed to ultraviolet light, the modified plants produced a faint green glow whenever their cells triggered stress responses. In theory, an entire farm could function like a living warning system. Initially, everything worked exactly as planned, but nature rarely respects the boundaries of a laboratory. Some of the modified wheat eventually cross-pollinated with nearby crops. Soon, farmers who had never participated in the experiment began noticing something strange while inspecting fields at night. Certain wheat heads showed a faint glow under blacklight. The glowing trait itself wasn't harmful. However, the fact that it had spread unintentionally raised concerns about genetically modified plants entering ordinary agriculture without oversight. Then, another effect appeared. The softly glowing plants began attracting nocturnal insects. Moths, beetles, and other nighttime pollinators gathered around the illuminated crops. Gradually, this shifted the local insect population, which in turn attracted new predators. A simple genetic modification meant to help farmers had quietly begun reshaping a small ecosystem. No monster, just a reminder that even tiny genetic changes can ripple through complex natural systems. Number 9. The brain-boosted mouse that got mean. In the late 1990s, scientists at Princeton University engineered one of the most famous genetically modified laboratory animals ever created. They modified mice so their brains produced higher amounts of a protein called NR2B, which improves the efficiency of receptors linked to learning and memory. The results were remarkable. These mice remembered maze routes far longer than normal mice. They solved problems faster and adapted to unfamiliar environments with impressive speed. Researchers jokingly called them Doogie mice, referencing the fictional prodigy Doogie Howser. At first, the breakthrough looked like an important step toward understanding diseases that affect memory, such as Alzheimer's. But intelligence brought unexpected changes. Over time, the enhanced mice began displaying unusually aggressive behavior. They fought more frequently over territory and food. Some appeared constantly restless, exploring their cages endlessly. It wasn't only their memory that had improved, their entire behavioral pattern had shifted. The experiment hinted at an uncomfortable idea. Boosting intelligence in animals might also increase competitiveness, dominance, and aggression. A sharper mind doesn't always come with a calmer temperament. Number 8. Super salamanders that wouldn't stop growing. Salamanders are famous among biologists for their ability to regenerate lost limbs. If one loses a leg, it can grow an entirely new one. For decades, researchers have studied this ability in hopes of one day applying similar regenerative processes to human medicine. In the late 1980s, scientists experimented with hormone combinations intended to accelerate the salamander's regrowth process. At first, the results looked promising. The animals regenerated limbs faster than usual, but something unexpected followed. Their bodies kept growing. Instead of reaching their typical adult size, some salamanders continued increasing in length and mass, eventually becoming almost twice the size of normal individuals. Their tails thickened, jaws broadened, and their muscles became noticeably stronger. Even stranger, their behavior changed. Normally calm amphibians began acting territorial and aggressive, attacking other salamanders and occasionally snapping at researchers. The project was quickly halted. While the animals never turned into giant monsters, the experiment demonstrated how sensitive biological growth systems are. Adjust one hormonal pathway, and the entire organism can shift in unpredictable directions. Number 7. The murder hornet's cousin. Asian giant hornets are already among the most intimidating insects on Earth. Their venom can cause severe reactions, and they are capable of destroying entire bee colonies. In the late 20th century, scientists in Japan attempted to create a less aggressive version of the species through hybridization. The idea was simple. By breeding them with a smaller and calmer hornet species, researchers hoped to preserve useful ecological roles while reducing their extreme hostility. Instead, the hybrid inherited the worst qualities of both parents. The aggression and venom potency remained, but the insects were smaller. That might sound like an improvement, but it created a new problem. Their reduced size allowed them to slip into beehives more easily. They bypassed defensive barriers and wiped out colonies rapidly. A few reportedly escaped before containment procedures were completed. There are no confirmed modern records of these hybrids today. Still, some rural beekeepers occasionally describe unusually destructive hornets that behave differently from known species. Whether those sightings are coincidence or something else remains uncertain. Number 6. The Rat Island Takeover. In the 1940s, scientists studying population dynamics released a small group of Norway rats onto a remote Alaskan island. The goal was to observe how a species would develop inside a completely closed ecosystem. There was one critical condition: no natural predators. Within a few years, the rats multiplied rapidly. Food soon became scarce, and the animals turned to hunting seabirds, eating eggs, and stripping vegetation. When researchers returned, the ecosystem had changed dramatically. Seabird populations had collapsed by nearly 90%. Native plant life had vanished. The rats had effectively become the island's dominant predators. The place eventually earned the nickname Rat Island. Restoring the ecosystem required decades of effort and large-scale eradication programs. Sometimes the most dangerous biological experiment isn't a mutation. It's simply introducing a normal species into the wrong environment.
Number 5. Frankenfish in the wild. In the early 2000s, scientists developed a genetically modified Atlantic salmon designed to grow faster than normal fish. The modification included a growth hormone gene from Chinook salmon, along with a genetic switch that allowed the hormone to remain active throughout the year. The result was striking. These salmon grew roughly twice as fast as their natural counterparts. Known as aqua advantage salmon, they were intended to remain inside tightly controlled aquaculture facilities. However, environmental groups later reported sightings of unusually large salmon near fish farms in parts of South America. If any modified fish escaped and survived in the wild, the ecological consequences could be serious. A rapidly growing predator capable of reproducing quickly might outcompete native species. Scientists still debate how likely that scenario actually is, but it highlights how even innovations meant for food production can carry unexpected environmental risks. Number 4. The cockroaches that wouldn't die. Cockroaches already have a reputation for being extremely resilient. In the 1980s, scientists studying pesticide resistance exposed cockroach populations to small doses of insecticides over multiple generations. The goal was to observe how resistance developed. Instead, they produced a strain capable of surviving extremely high chemical exposure. These insects evolved resistance to several pesticides at once. Their metabolism accelerated, allowing them to mature faster and reproduce more frequently. Inside the controlled laboratory environment, their populations surged. Some even began chewing through unusual materials like insulation and soft plastics. Eventually, the colony had to be eliminated under strict containment protocols. The experiment demonstrated something unsettling. Evolution can move surprisingly fast when organisms are subjected to intense selective pressure. Number 3. The mutant flu. In 2011, scientists researching the H5N1 avian influenza virus attempted to understand how it might evolve to spread more easily among humans. In nature, H5N1 rarely passes from person to person, but when it does infect humans, the fatality rate can exceed 50%. To study potential mutations, researchers repeatedly passed the virus through ferrets, allowing it to adapt under controlled laboratory conditions. After several generations, the virus acquired the ability to spread through the air between animals. It also remained highly lethal. The discovery immediately sparked global debate. Some experts argued that such research was necessary to anticipate future pandemics. Others warned that creating more transmissible versions of dangerous viruses, even inside secure labs, posed unacceptable risks. The controversy became one of the most famous examples of the ongoing debate surrounding gain-of-function research. Number 2. The monkey with a human brain gene. In 2019, scientists introduced a gene linked to human brain development into rhesus macaque monkeys. The gene, known as MCPH1, plays a role in how human brains grow and mature. The modified monkeys performed better in memory tests and problem-solving tasks than unmodified animals. Even more interesting, their brain development appeared slightly slower, resembling the extended developmental period seen in human children. That longer growth window allows more time for neural connections to form. The research aimed to explore the evolutionary differences between human and primate intelligence, but it also raised ethical questions. If animals begin to develop cognitive traits closer to human thinking, where should the line be drawn between species? Number 1. The glow-in-the-dark rabbits. In 2011, researchers in Turkey inserted a jellyfish gene into rabbit embryos. This gene produced green fluorescent protein, a substance commonly used in biology to track genetic activity. Under ultraviolet light, the rabbits glowed bright green. The animals remained healthy and behaved normally. The glow simply served as proof that the genetic modification had succeeded. The technique had a serious goal. Scientists hoped similar methods might eventually allow animals to produce valuable medical proteins in their milk, potentially helping treat diseases like hemophilia. But when images of the glowing rabbits spread online, the public reaction was immediate. Some people saw them as strange science fiction creations. Others accused researchers of creating unnatural animals. In reality, the rabbits were simply carrying a fluorescent protein already used in laboratories around the world. Yet the images revealed something powerful. Sometimes the most unsettling part of modern science isn't what it creates, it's how unusual reality can appear once biology begins following rules we're only starting to understand. Scientific research doesn't usually create monsters. What it creates are questions. Questions about ecosystems, intelligence, evolution, and the boundaries between species. And sometimes those questions are far more unsettling than any creature we could imagine. And remember, the universe doesn't reveal its secrets to those who rush. It reveals them to those who know how to look. Subscribe and keep listening to the silence.